Hey, it's Doug with Backcountry Pilgrim. When I am doing an overnight and I'm going to want to be cooking my food, I try to think of how many cooks I'm going to want and how much fuel I'm going to need. And it's pretty normal to just grab one of these fuel canisters and hit the trail. But in this video, I want to talk to you about two different tools that are going to help you deal with these fuel canisters in a more efficient and more eco-friendly way. One of those tools is the Jetboil Crunch It, and the other is a little gas refill adapter. You can get these all over the place, but I would recommend the one from Hilltop Packs. One of them will help you extend the life of a smaller fuel canister and save you money by allowing you to purchase large ones that you'd probably never want to carry on the trail to refill these. This, of course, also allows you to use these canisters over and over again instead of tossing them in the landfill after their first use. Now, eventually you're going to get to the point where you don't want to use the canister anymore, and when you do, that is when this other device comes in handy, because it's going to let you prepare the canister to be recycled in a safe way. We'll start by looking at how a canister refuel adapter works. Using backpacking stove gas canisters can be very frustrating because they rarely run all the way to empty on a single trip, and no one wants to take a questionable amount of fuel into the backcountry. If you're like me, that means you end up with dozens of little gas cans lying around, waiting for their very final use or to be recycled. Most of the time, this means it is a waste of fuel, and those steel canisters will add up to a lot of landfill space. There are two small, inexpensive tools on the market that will help with both of these issues in different but complementary ways. The first is an adapter that allows transfer of fuel from one canister to another, which not only allows you to reuse smaller canisters, but it also saves money in the long run because you can buy larger sized canisters at a lower cost per gram of fuel to fill up those smaller canisters from the larger one that you would not want to carry on a typical backpacking trip. The second is a tool that will vent out the gas that is left over in a canister, and once that canister has reached end of usable life, will help you prepare it for recycling. Now, when it comes to canister adapters, two popular tools are the one made by Flip Fuel and the G-Works Gas Saver Plus. Hilltop Packs also offers one through their company Apex Giant. These little guys are typically going to run you about 20 bucks. I will put links in the description of the video below in case you are interested in purchasing either one of these. Using those links does help the channel out at no cost to you. Now, before we get started looking at how these adapters work, I need to offer this quick warning. To my knowledge, no gas canister manufacturer recommends reusing them, which should not come as a huge surprise. I have even heard that there may be legal issues with the transport or sale of refilled canisters, so do your due diligence and proceed at your own risk. I also strongly recommend that you do this work outside, or at least in a very well-ventilated area. Isobutane is a colorless, near-odorless gas, so you don't want to mess around with it in a small enclosed space or near flame. Now, before you get started refilling a used canister, it is good to establish a baseline by weighing an empty canister versus a full one, and be sure that you know those numbers. You're not trying to top off these canisters. Refills generally should not exceed about 80% of full, or what you would get with a brand new canister. Canisters have the amount of gas marked on them as weight, so if you weigh a brand new one, you will know the difference between the weight of the canister and the fuel. Jetboil even makes the Jet Gauge Digital Fuel Measure, which is a scale that can attach to the canister itself. Once you know what you are going for, the idea behind the gas transfer is pretty simple, and so is the adapter. You're just going to screw both canisters onto the adapter, making sure that the full and empty are on the right ends. Once they are connected, you will open the valve, listen for the gas transfer, and when it stops, close the valve and unscrew the canisters. That's basically it. Weigh the receiving canister and you'll know how much fuel you have. Now, before you do this, you should know that heat difference affects gas flow, so it works best if the empty or receiving canister is colder than the one you are filling it from. You can put the receiving canister in the freezer for 5 minutes or so to get its temperature down, and you can warm up the full canister in a warm room. Once I know how much fuel I have refilled the canister with, I write it on the bottom so that I can calculate how many cooks I should get out of it. You can figure this out by weighing the fuel and boiling a typical sized pot of water and weighing the fuel again. This will let you know how many grams of fuel your stove uses per meal. Of course, in real-world conditions, which may include cold, wind, and different elevations, you won't get what you get in your home. So err on the side of caution, or you may be eating that chicken Alfredo colder than you like. Now, eventually these canisters are going to no longer be good to use. There is no strict rule on when that takes place, but there have been a wide variety of experiences with these refilled canisters, some of them lasting through multiple refills over many years, and others failing fairly quickly. Basically, if they start looking bad or, of course, leaking gas, stop use immediately. It is now time to recycle this canister, and that is where the Jetboil Crunch comes in. To be recycled, a canister has to be punctured in order to ensure that it is empty. Before puncturing, you're going to want to vent the canister to make sure there is no fuel in it. You can do this with some of the transfer tools that have a vent button, or just let it vent as you screw on the Crunch It tool. You could also burn it off with your stove, but why add wear to the stove when all you have to do is get it flowing out of the canister? Now, as you are screwing the Crunch It on and venting the gas, you will notice a sharp spike coming from the bottom, and once the Crunch It is screwed on all the way, it acts as a lever to push this spike into the can and puncture it. Once you've made your first hole, just turn the Crunch It around so that you can make several more all across the top. This just makes it obvious that it's been done. Once the holes have been made, just unscrew the Crunch It, and the canister may be ready for recycling. The Crunch It also has a bottle opener on it so that you can reward yourself for having saved the planet after all your hard work. One pro tip that I learned the hard way is do not throw away the little orange spike cover. The Jetboil Crunch It is wicked sharp, and it is not easy to store it safely without the use of this sheath. The Jetboil Crunch It usually runs around $15. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, why don't you give it a like and subscribe to Backcountry Pilgrim if you are into hiking, camping, backpacking, and the gear that goes with it. Until next time, I'm Doug. Thanks for watching.